Yo, what's up? It's DeagleBeagle. So today we're gonna go over Zapdos-Galar, and there's a lot of different ways on how to use this Pokemon. So let's go to Pikalytics. Thunderous Kick has been doing really well for me. Actually, Zapdos-Galar in general has been doing really well for me because there's been such an increase in Landorus T usage. Yeah, by the way, that lamp went out. I gotta replace the switch probably. But anyways, besides Fluttermane and well, it actually counters Urshifu if you can wall up Surging Strikes or if you outspeed it. And then as far as Fluttermane goes, you can actually beat that with Terra Fire, fire off a Brave Bird. We should actually calculate that, but anyways, Zapdos-Galar just counters a lot of the meta. I just want to calculate the Brave Bird. Why? Wait, no, that's the wrong Zapdos. So let's just assume it's Adamant, max possible attack with Brave Bird. You should probably be using Brave Bird in either Thunderous Kick or Close Combat on all of the Zapdos-Galars. So it's gonna one-shot it for sure with Brave Bird. Like, even if they use a ton of bulk, depending on how much attack you want to run. You could even run less attack. I personally would probably not max attack. I'd probably use something around this and max HP and probably put the rest in defense, because you wanna wall like whatever Chien Pao, and we'll calculate that later. And maybe something like that. And you want to wall the Urshifu better. Citrus Berry would be probably the best item with Zapdos because you just wall stuff in general. And especially Surging Strikes, it's going to activate. So it's just a good item, and it helps get Tailwind up and is just good in general. But let's look at a few things. How other people have used it. Yeah, most of them have used Terra Fire, about half. The rest have used miscellaneous Terras. Terra Fire seems really good, because what is this thing weak to? It's weak to Fairy, Flying, Ice, and Electric. It's not weak to Rock because it's part Fighting. Oh, and it's weak to Psychic. Dang. Yeah, it is a decent amount of weaknesses, but Psychic isn't used that much. And I mean, Fluttermane is used a lot, so that would be the most common problem for Zapdos if it doesn't want to Terra. But it can Terra, and you might have to bring it in the back and set it up at the right time, but it can Tailwind, and it deters Landorus T. Like I was saying, let's look through all the common Pokemon. So with the Terra, it has a chance against Fluttermane. It doesn't really need to Terra to beat Urshifu. Well, depends on if Urshifu Terras, but then Urshifu kind of has to Terra to maybe beat it. And I don't even know. We should go to the calcs later, actually. We got to go over an overview first, but I want to show you some calcs like Surging Strikes with Terra Water versus Zapdos-Galar. I'm not sure if that would kill with Citrus or not, because Zapdos-Galar has a really high base stat total. It has like 580. Yeah, that's just really good. And it's even a better base stat total than Zapdos regular by just a little bit, because if you look at it, it has 85 base special attack, and Zapdos has base 90, but you don't use that 90 and you don't use the 85. So it's as if it has 5 more usable base stat total than Zapdos. So you shouldn't go by base stat totals. I would recommend going by usable base stat totals. So this really only has a base stat total of 490 unless you use like a mixed one or physical one. And this one has a base stat total, a usable base stat total of 495, so that's pretty dang high. And where was I? Back to this Zapdos. And back to here. So yeah, weak to flying is kind of an issue. That's probably partly why people haven't used it, because Tornadus and Tornadus and and Thunders, but more Tornadus and Fluttermane, I think, and Qianpao. It is weak to a lot of things, so you might have to conserve your Terra, but it also counters a lot of things, like it counters, well, it helps beat Terra Normal Dragonite, or does okay against Dragonite in general, whether it Terras or not. It, Cresselia is kind of an issue for it, but it is pretty bulky to wall that and hit its allies. Or it. Ursaluna, not really. Well, it can actually, super effective with fighting, so it does okay versus that. You just don't want to be hit by a facade. And then it does really well against Landorus. Benefits off of that Intimidate. I basically was thinking of Zapdos-Galar because it, unlike King Ambit, has different weaknesses, and it has Tailwind, and it super affects probably more Pokemon, like Amoonguss, Heatran. Versus Iron Hands, you do alright versus it, but you would have to Terra though to do alright versus it, because it could just Wild Charge. So gotta be careful for that one. Does really well against Rillaboom. Rillaboom can't do much to it typically, and it versus Goldango, it doesn't have a good matchup unless it Terra Watered. And Chi-Yu, it walls that pretty well typically, but that matchup's probably about maybe neutral, or actually it probably has an advantage because it normally walls Chi-Yu into one shots with Thunderous Kick. Thunderous Kick is a pretty good move, lowers their defense, 90 power, perfect accuracy, can't really complain about it. And then Torkoal, maybe if it outspeeds it with Eruption with like After You or something, but I mean Zapdos is a physical Pokemon, Galar one, but I mean it's good against Urshifu, the single strike. It's good against, it's not the best versus NDDF, probably slightly at a disadvantage. Regieleki, it has a decent disadvantage. Same with Thundurus. And Iron Bundle, you could say, well, it depends. You should be able to normally wall Iron Bundle and one-shot it with Thunderous Kick. So it doesn't necessarily have a disadvantage. It kind of depends on the context of who their ally is and whatnot, and what they choose to do. And you could Terra Fire, which does resist ice. Basculegion. Basculegion, it could beat Zapdos-Galar. Yeah. It probably has a slight advantage. No, probably a little bit more than a slight advantage. Well, it depends on if it outspeeds or not. if it has like Swift Swim, or like it somehow outspeeds it because you don't use a lot of speed or whatever. But if you outspeed it, it's not too bad unless they get like a boost for last respects. And then I mean it can still wave crash though with adaptability. So yeah, Reg D, it doesn't do that well versus it unless it happens to outspeed it. Grimmsnarl, not that great versus it, but it does lower its defense, and that's one way to get around screens. And I guess I don't need to go through the whole list, but I think it's really important to focus on a few things. So Intimidate's been the main issue for a lot of teams, or maybe not main, but one of the main issues. And you can get around that with Zapdos-Galar, and it's just been really good for me so far. This is probably the best set on how to use it. It just is good overall. You got the Tailwind if you need it, Brave Bird, Thunderous Kick, Detect, and there's probably not a lot of other ways to run it. Maybe Helping Hand over Detect, but I would probably I would keep Detect because you would use it a lot. Maybe if you had to use Helping Hand, maybe use it over Tailwind. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much how to use it. But let's look at some other ways besides Citrus. Some people use it with Grassy Sea with Acrobatics. That's why you see it here. Or they use some other like terrain besides grassy terrain, like Psychic Terrain. But typically they use it with Rillaboom. Yeah, that's what the statistics show. I'm a little surprised that Tornadus is the most common partner, because this thing has Tailwind. It's a flying type. I would have thought it would have been something else, but I guess it's just because Tornadus is so used already. Anyways, let's go over some of the benefits of the different Terras. So Terra Steel would be good against like flying. It would be good against Psychic, which Fire isn't. Fire is better against Will-O-Wisp though, but Wisp isn't super common anymore. And then what else is it weak to? Ice. Yeah, Steel is good against Ice, so is Fire. Steel and Fire are about neutral when it comes to taking on electric moves, and well, actually I guess exactly equal, but I mean that plus their ally is what I mean. It makes it about equal. And then what else is it weak to again? I swear it's weak to like 5 things, but it still seems pretty good. Electric, Ice, that's 2, not Rock, Fairy, Flying, Psychic. Yeah, so it's weak to 3 things on the fighting side of its typing and 2 things on the flying side of its typing. Basically, it's weak to all those 2 typings except Rock, because it's part fighting. So, fighting? I wouldn't use Terra Fighting. That doesn't help you at all defensively. You want a good defensive Terra. Electric is alright. I mean, it does help you like versus flying, and it's still resists steel and oh, it also resists electric. Yeah, actually electric sounds pretty good, and they're not likely to use a ground move against you because you're normally a flying type before you Terra. So actually These Terras make sense, except I'm trying to figure out Terra Ice. Why did they use Terra Ice? They're probably using Terra Blast. Okay, I think I know what they're trying to do. They were probably trying to use Terra Blast Ice to hit Landorus because it's the most common Intimidator. But the question is do you need Terra Ice? I think not. Because you could just like give a max attack and you probably one-shot it. Unless they use like just a ton of HP, like max HP to even wall it most of the time. So, good luck with that. I wouldn't use Terra Ice just for that. That seems kind of stupid, but it is on the lowest end of the statistics that they show. They don't show all the Terras, obviously, but they show the top ones. And I would recommend, I mean, Ghost is only really good versus like Fake Out and Extreme Speed. I wouldn't recommend Ghost or Ice. I would not recommend Fighting or Flying too, because yeah, it does improve your offense, but when you're weak to 5 things, you probably want a defensive Terra. So go with like Steel, go with like probably Fire is a little bit better than Steel because you have a lot of Pokemon that super affect Steel lately, like Sacred Sword with Chien Pao or whatever. But yeah, and Fire is just more consistent versus Burn. So Fire seems like the best overall, and then Electric seems like it's the second best. So I'll show one with Terra Electric, and I would normally, by the way, recommend Thunderous Kick. Take advantage of that move because you have 100% chance to lower their defense by 1. But even if it didn't have that effect, it's a 90 power move that doesn't lower defenses. So it keeps your defenses high, and this thing's really bulky, so it takes advantage of that. I wouldn't recommend Sash, probably. No, because not with Brave Bird, anyways. If you, not even with Acrobatics either. Let me just show a few more really quick, and then we'll end the video. These are probably the main 2 ones I would use, and there might be one more. I suppose people might, if they're using Grassy Seed, they might use like, whatchamacallit, Terra Blast Grass. But I don't know what that would really hit. Let me see. Well, it's Super Fake Urshifu even if it Terra Waters. And Super Effects. Well, you already Super Effect that. Terra Grass would be good against Spore. That is an option. Because Safety Goggles is used a little bit with this Pokemon. And, but I don't think you probably want to use Terra Grass. Because you could, though. It's just, it doesn't help you versus almost anything that this thing's weak to. So, I probably shouldn't even show that. Grassy Seed. No, make it whatever. Make it, you could make it Flying if you're using Acrobatics, but you don't have to. I don't know if I would recommend it even with Acrobatics though, because it's like you probably want a defensive Terra being weak to 5 freaking things, and Covert Cloak, maybe. Yeah, maybe. You could like use it to take out Rillaboom and whatnot. So I guess I'll show that. and stop you from getting freaking flinch hacked. Covert cloak. Let's just make it like the default, like fire or something. And then, no, not acrobatics. You would want Brave Bird again. I'm so tired. Life Orb is a decent item, but I don't know if it probably justifies it being in the video. Scarf could be okay. Yeah, actually, with its high speed, you outspeed Urshifu. I could see it. I could definitely see it. But are you gonna one-shot Urshifu? Probably not. So then you might, on the Scarf one, you might want Terra Flying, but you don't. You could use a defensive one instead. That's fine. It's just you might want that extra damage if it picks up the kill on Urshifu. So could calc that. No, I mean if it's Terra Water. It looks like it's going to be a roll. No, it doesn't even one shot. Okay, forget it. Probably don't use Terra Flying. Use like something else. Even Terra Water wouldn't be too bad, but I'd probably use either Fire or actually Fire. Huh. Fire wouldn't help versus Urshifu. So I don't know actually. But neither does whatever electric. So let's just put for now Fire back on. And if you're using Scarf, I suppose you could use Close Combat. Just normally I recommend Thunderous Kick instead. But if you have room for that, for both even, then that's fine. And the last move should probably be U-turn. Or some other attacking move like Stomping Tantrum, but probably U-turn on the Scarf one. And give him more speed. You would probably want Jolly. And at least give it enough to outspeed whatever speed Urshifu is. I think it's like 157. So maybe something like this or more speed. And let's go over a few more things. Sash seems like a trash item because you're either going to use Acrobatics or Brave Bird. How do you have room for Focus Sash? Safety Goggles is a right. Muscle Band, I'm surprised it's that high for the usage. Typically, it's almost never used on anything. And then Lumberry's alright, but I don't know. That just seems kind of whack. Maybe if you're like really worried about like Spore, but you could use Goggles. Rocky Helmet is a good item too, but overall, I don't know why we're not seeing Citrus. Citrus should probably be the most common item with it. I think people just wanted to try out Grassy Seed with Acrobatics. Like Citrus, I'm guessing should be the most common item, and then like Grassy Seed is really good too. But you have to have Rillaboom for that. If you have Rillaboom for it, maybe. But even if you have Rillaboom on the team, then you have to pick it with Zapdos, and I don't know if you would want to do that. Now you have two Pokemon weak to like Bleak Wind Storm. So these are probably the main ways to use Zapdos. So thanks for watching. Actually no, we gotta calc one more thing and then end the video. And then I can go to bed. So, let's say you're an Urshifu Rapid Strike. People like to use Mystic Water with it, but you don't have to. So, they're using Mystic Water. That only has a 6.3% chance of OHKOing. Wow. That's sad. You would think it would be a little bit more, because 3.5% past 100's like kind of a lot. Usually if it's that low of a chance to KO, it's like 100 and something, like 101%. I don't know, 100.5 or whatever. So that's, I think, because it messes with the calc like that, because it's 3 hits. I don't know. So you could just use that, and you don't even need, I'm surprised you don't even need citrus. But let's say they're using an adamant one. Well, citrus would wall that too. Or you could give it some more defense, like I was saying earlier, and take some out of attack. So you could even use something like this, and it would do pretty well, I think. Definitely need to try out Zapdos-Galar more, because it just seems like one of the best defined users right now, and people are just not preparing for it. Like, I'm doing really well with this team with Grimmsnarl, and Gastrodon's really been anti-meta. And I was looking for a Pokemon that countered Intimidate, because I was tired of being Intimidate spammed, even though I mostly just have Grimmsnarl and Landorus as the physical attackers, but Zapdos makes it a third. But they were just swapping in and out of Landorus way too much, and I kind of wanted to put a stop to it. And then I also had Rillaboom in that slot where the Zapdos is, but it wasn't doing, you can see that right here. It was doing okay. It's not bad at all, but it's like, I wanted to see if there was something better, because for some reason Rillaboom has been okay, but they sometimes either have a faster Rillaboom and make it kind of useless, or just kill it with something, or hit it hard with like Tornadus, or I don't know. Just it wasn't doing quite as well as it used to do. And then I started using Zapdos-Galar, and that thing was just pretty good. They can no longer just like spam Intimidate, cycle all that, and use land, and it just counters Landorus in general, even if it didn't have Intimidate. Well, I guess it does, but I mean, I'm not just talking about like intimidating the allies. When you get intimidated, um, you can like use it to kill their Landorus, and Landorus otherwise kind of would counter Goldango and Heatran and whatnot. So like Zapdos helps protect those Pokemon by just having good typing to wall Landorus T and benefiting off of its Intimidate. So it's going to really deter them from using it, and if it doesn't, then you're going to hit them really hard, or their ally, and you'll probably show them. I think